welcome back to this newest episode of Sports Hour. I'm, of course, your host of Sports Hour, Mr. Trevor Hauer, and with me, Sarah Gordon, Topher Elkins, here to talk some NFL. Guess what, guys? We have another mock draft because the week of the draft, I think it's next week, but in like 9 to 10 days exactly.
Next Thursday.
But next Thursday, Peter Schrager from NFL Network came out with his 2022 mock draft. A little bit of, nice, solid picks, and a little bit of hot takes. I think we'll get into that in just a little bit. So, Topher, starting off, were there any hot takes that you saw in this draft by any chance?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. This is one of my least favorite mock drafts I've seen so far because I feel like he's good like in the middle ground, but like in the early beginning and then the end is where it like falls off. Specifically, in the end, like I hate the Bills pick he has, and then the early round picks, I'm not a fan. I just don't think they're like accurate. I feel like at this point, they just don't really make sense.
Yeah, let's talk about that Bills pick real quick. So, who does he have him taking, and why do they have him taking that player in this particular round?
All right, so they have them taking. He thinks that they're taking Breece Hall, who, yes, I love as a player. He's the running back from Iowa State. I watched his games last year. He's insane. Like the dude is a freak of nature running back. But I just don't think that that's. I think I agree the Bills need a running back, but I don't think it's that. I don't think
not
first
round.
I agree.
Not
completely.
first round. Yeah, the Bills, without a doubt, and I feel like everyone knows this, but clearly not everyone knows this, but they definitely need a cornerback. First and foremost, they need to get a cornerback. Running back can come later. They definitely could use another one, but later. Cornerback is number one that the Bills need to take care of first and foremost.
I feel like drafting a running back in the first round is always a gamble. I mean, look at guys like Dalvin Cook, who started off great, right, and then they kind of just got plagued with injuries, and now we really don't see much from him. We see, 9 games from him a year. So I would say, yeah, huge risk. On top of that, Sarah was right, corner, because, I don't know if you guys saw, but Trey White is coming off of a very serious lower body injury. So you're going to need to stack the depth in that cornerback position. I think drafting one right away is the safest pick to go. You can also trade up in the second round or trade up in the third round to get a running back of your choice and find a gem in the rough, so to speak, right there.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of running back depth in this draft that's going just kind of underappreciated because everyone is hyper focusing on Breece Hall. The dude's a freak. He's a crazy running back. He's insanely good. He can do everything of a running back side from an offensive standpoint. And I think they've been kind of I think a lot of the justification of Bills taking first round running back is that every other AFC team is loading up on their offense. So they're the Bills need to do it too. And the only position the Bills really need to load up on in offensive is running back. But I still think right now, Dane Jackson's our cornerback one until Trey White comes back. We lost Levi Wallace. Dane Jackson's amazing. He is a really good graded cornerback, which I didn't realize from PFF standpoint. But he's not. He can't do everything on his own. I don't know. We don't have a cornerback two right now.
Yeah. And we don't know, they haven't been telling us, and which is, good. You want to keep things quiet for the time being, because obviously we're months away from the start of the season, but we don't know what's going to happen with Trey White right now.
Yeah,
it's still very up in the air.
He could be back, but he won't be 100% most likely. He'll be there, but it's not going to be the same player. He's going to be playing through an injury, that.
Right.
But with that said, I definitely think they should go with a defensive back. Another one that Schrager put out there that kind of just threw me off balance a little bit was the Pittsburgh Steelers pick at 20th overall. He thinks that Malik Willis, one of the top quarterback prospects, is going to fall all the way to pick 20.
So who does he have Carolina taking? That's my only. I haven't seen that. Who does he have Carolina taking?
So he has.
No. Okay, no.
Yeah.
Kenny Pickett is not going 8th overall. Flip him. I see Kenny Pickett literally is just a bred Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback, dude.
He was a Pitt Panther in college.
Exactly. It just makes too much sense. I understand there's the connections of Kenny Pickett going to Carolina because of I know it's their owner, their GM likes Pitt, he worked at Pitt or something. Malik Willis is the best quarterback in this draft, and he should be the first. I don't care about connections. Look at what happened when the teams tried to get cute and they took Daniel Jones. To be fair, the quarterbacks in that draft did not play out well, but look what happened the last time someone tried to get cute and they took Daniel Jones before the better quarterback in college, who was Dwayne Haskins at that moment. It just didn't end well for them. So no, you take the best quarterback available, who is Malik Willis in this situation.
Right. I mean, I've seen mock drafts all over the place, and most of them, they don't even have him falling out of the top 10. And, I mean, Peter Schrager has him falling out of the top 15 going into 20.
Yeah.
I think something drastically has to go wrong for him to fall to 20, but I just don't see it happening. And same with, who was it? It was Jermaine Johnson II. I mean, the edge rusher going to the Vikings, I could see him being a top 10 pick as well.
Yeah, he's crazy.
But if there was a team that needs an edge rusher, it's definitely Minnesota, but I think they would have to trade up a couple positions to, get in there and set up that position to get there.
Yeah.
And, they're already in 12th, so they're just on the outside looking into the top 10. It could be done, but they probably need to trade one of the veterans on their team and some other draft, capital, whether that's second-round picks, third-round picks, to climb up 3 spots in the top 10.
Yeah.
Also, I don't understand the logic behind Kyle Hamilton being outside of the top 5, realistically. Because, you obviously base off of, draft need sometimes. But, realistically, you got to take best player available. And Kyle Hamilton is the best player available in this draft.
Oh, without a doubt.
Safety is obviously, an underappreciated position.
100%.
But he is the best athlete and best football player in this draft. Obviously, he's not like Aiden Hutchinson, who was a Heisman candidate. Who, realistically, him not being the number 1 overall pick in this mock draft alone kind of makes me think it's not realistic. But Kyle Hamilton should never fall out of the top 10, let alone never fall out of top 5, let alone top 10.
Yeah, I think so too. But you also mentioned, though, Aiden Hutchinson. I could see him going first overall.
He should. I think he should.
I've seen other mock drafts where offensive linemen go first overall because the Jags need to protect Trevor Lawrence as much as possible because he was getting beat around last year pretty well. And I'm surprised that he didn't even get hurt last year. But, Trayvon Walker, he has him going first overall to the Jags. While they do need help pretty much everywhere except for wide receiver.
And quarterback.
Running back, they're pretty stacked, let's say that.
Yeah, running back too.
Because they have Etienne and Robinson.
Yeah.
So I honestly think they could pick their poison. What do they want to go, O-line or D-line? Honestly, build up from the offense and just build a team around your offense. And then once you establish a solid offense, you can get to work on the defense. Because nobody really had, the Jags having a great defense going into this year anyway. But with all the receivers and all the running backs that they have, and Trevor Lawrence supposed to be this, prodigy quarterback, you need to build up with your offense. I think you need to go offensive line first overall.
Yeah, it's such a weird position because they're just bad on both sides of the ball right now.
Yeah.
They're getting the situation where the weapons are good, they're getting there with weapons, but at the same time, Hutchinson is Hutchinson should be the number 1 overall pick here, and I feel even not Hutchinson, the first O lineman he has going here is Ekwonu, and I don't even think he's better. I think Cross is better than Ekwonu based on because Charles Cross is a freak of nature. He's crazy. I honestly think there's 2 people better than Ekwonu, and I think it's Charles Cross and Evan Neal. I think they're both better. So I don't know why. I don't know. Obviously, they have better connections in the NFL than I do, but based off someone who just watches each at least for the most part each game and does mock draft stuff because I love free agency and the draft specifically. I don't see it with that one.
I honestly think Charles Cross though he's coming out of his sophomore year of college. If he decided to go back to Mississippi State and play another year, I mean his draft stock can go from 5 to the top 3 or the top 2. But I mean at this point when the NFL projects you in the top 5. Don't even think about going back to college the next year. I mean, just go in the draft this year.
Oh, yeah, no,
the Giants already have a bad offensive line. They're obviously going to need somebody there.
Yeah.
So, why not be that guy that, even though you just came off your sophomore year of college, just, you're a young guy, go in there and sort of just build up that offensive line and just be an impact right away. It's not like he's going in as a third-round pick that might not see a lot of playing time. He's going as a top 5 overall pick coming out of his sophomore year of college. He's a big deal. But then when you look at a guy Ekwonu, he's a junior, a little bit more experience, went to NC State, a quarterback university school they used to call it with Phillip Rivers and Russell Wilson and Jacoby Brissett coming out of that school.
Sorry.
I think they're both really, really good, but I think they're kind of just pushed out of the spotlight by these edge rushers and by these defensive players. Guys like Thibodeau, guys like Walker, guys like Hutchinson,
Sauce Gardner.
Sauce Gardner, absolutely. they kind of just, take some of the spotlight away from guys like Ekwonu and Cross.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no. Like, the offensive lineman talent is going under the radar because this is just such a defensive-heavy draft. Like, there has never been, I don't think there's been, like, a DB, like, across, like, safeties and corner, like, class in a very long time. Because you got Sauce, you got Derek Stingley, you got Andrew Booth, you have Trent McDuffie, you have Kyle Hamilton, you have literally
Jermaine Johnson.
Jermaine Johnson's an edge guy, but he's like plays that kind of like linebacker-ish. You even got, who else is it? Who's the last one? Trent McDuffie, I said. Yep. And there's one more. Kyler Gordon from two of the Washington cornerbacks. That's a crazy thing, by the way. I think that's going very like underrated that both Trent McDuffie and Kyler Gordon are like first round talents that are coming out of the same school. Yeah. Like that's an Alabama thing, not a Washington thing, I feel like.
I felt like a lot of the 2020 and 2021 draft, they were heavily surrounded by like offensive weapons.
Yeah.
Receivers, running backs, quarterbacks. This one is all about the defense. You do have great receiver prospects though.
Oh, there's so many.
But at the same time, I mean, you're going to have some of those every single year.
Yeah.
But this year especially is safeties, corners, edge rushers, offensive line. We have all those. Build up your team the way that you want.
I think it's like I think it's that one thing where like everyone is at the point where they're like, okay, we're somewhat like satisfied with our offensive weapons, but for the most part, we really need to build up like the backbone of the team, which I think a lot of things have been like under the radar in like the past maybe like 2 years because guys like Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen who have been offensive freaks.
Right, like that's kind of what we saw last year. Is a lot of, like you said, the offenses are kind of building, but you can't just let the offense do it all themselves.
Right. Defense wins championships, right?
Yep, exactly.
Ray Lewis said it best. Defense wins championships. A lot of stuff to cover, in the next coming weeks or so, but thank you guys for coming on. We're going to have Sydney on to talk some baseball, so don't go away. Why?
I'm in the control room.
No time, just sign on the line at the post office for selective service. Hey guys, if you're about to turn 18, you've got to register with Selective Service. It's simple. Just go down to the post office, fill out a card, and turn it in. That's all there is to it. There's no draft now. You're just adding your name to Selective Service's list in case there's a national emergency. So if you're 18 now, Selective Service, you gotta get down. Register with Selective Service. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the law. Takes no time. Just sign on the line at the post office. Selective Service. We've been down there. You gotta do the same. Post office. All you do is sign. So don't get nervous. Sign your name. Selective Service. It takes no time. Just sign on the line at the post office for Selective Service. Hey guys, if you're about to turn 18, you've got to register with Selective Service. It's simple. Just go down to the post office, fill out a card, and turn it in. That's all there is to it. There's no draft now. You're just adding your name to Selective Service's list in case there's a national emergency. So if you're 18 now, Selective Service, you gotta get down. Register with Selective Service. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the law. Takes no time. Just sign on the line at the post office. Selective Service.
You could have waited for the.
Welcome back to Sports Hour.
Waited for the bump
Happy to have Sydney on for the first time.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Ready to talk some baseball?
I mean, as ready as I can be.
I mean, I've been waiting, it feels like so long to, have a really in-depth conversation about baseball on this show because for those of you that were not familiar or just, have been living under a rock or something, baseball was in a major lockout from December. Now we're in April, and it's finally underway. We're in the second week of the season. And I guess we can run down the power rankings real quick. Some teams are already on their third series of the year. Some teams are on their fourth series of the year. But, I mean, just looking at these power rankings early, there are some shockers. And, with power rankings, it's all subjective. So you have the anchors giving out their opinions, whether it's CBS or Fox, ESPN. Some of them I agree with. And obviously, you know, some of them I don't. So we can start off with number 1.
Yeah, I mean, seeing the Dodgers up there,
Yep.
that's kind of surprising for me. I mean, I haven't been watching too much baseball yet this season, but I feel like I wouldn't have guessed that they would have been all the way up there at number 1.
I think, you know, part of it is because Cody Bellinger's really turning his game around, which as an Astros fan I don't really like seeing because that's kind of like poison directly dropped into my eyes watching the Dodgers succeed. But, in lack of a better term. But, you know, you have to respect some of the guys like Chris Taylor and guys like Will Smith, not the actor, but the baseball player Will Smith. And, you know, players that are really stepping it up, pitchers like Walker Buehler are looking good. So right now they're on a 7-game winning streak. They just beat the World Series champs in the Atlanta Braves last night. So that's big news. Doesn't really surprise me. It's just more of like how long are they going to stay there? I really don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see what they can do with this season. I mean, they might go to the World Series. Like, honestly, I'd like to see them there.
They seem to get really close every single year. And it's just that one team that bumps them out of the way. Last year it was the Braves, and then I think a couple years ago it was I'm trying to think who was on the 2020 was a random year, but they actually won the World Series that year. And 19, the Nationals beat them, and it just seems like there's always that one team. When you get to 4 teams to go, they always get, you know, the short end of the stick.
They're choking under the pressure.
Yep.
Gotta keep it together this year.
Yep. And then number 2, their arch rival in the San Francisco Giants. Carlos Rodon, who they acquired from, left-handed starting pitcher, who they acquired from the Chicago White Sox, has 21 strikeouts in 12 innings pitched. That's really good numbers from him, and I think they found themselves their, number 1 starter in Carlos Rodon.
Yeah, 100%.
But, I mean, you take a look at that strikeout rate, and compared to his ERA right now, which is at a sub-1, I mean, he's looking fantastic. What about the Mets at 3?
The Mets at 3. I have to say, I hate the Mets. I will put it out there. I am a Yankees fan all the way. I would honestly rather even see the Red Sox there.
You are forgiven. I mean, I root for the Astros.
I know. I'm sorry. The Mets, I can't do it. I'm honestly really upset that they're at 3rd. I wish they were a little bit farther down. I mean, Yankees and Red Sox being so far down, it hurts. It physically pains me to see that.
I think for the most part, the reason why the Mets are where they are right now, I think is because they did face against the Diamondbacks. They faced against a couple bad teams to start off the year. But as of right now, Francisco Lindor, no matter what team they're facing against, Francisco Lindor looks great. I mean, his slugging percentage is over 600 right now. And a 442 on-base percentage, whether that's walks or hits, Francisco Lindor is right now earning every little bit of that massive contract that he had. He has 3 home runs already. And he has 9 runs and 2 steals, 2 stolen bases in 10 games played. At this rate, he's stealing like literally 82 bases this year, which is like unheard of. But you know,
I gotta say though, I'm happy that the Blue Jays are 4th.
Yeah, I am too.
I mean, I started to like them a lot more because they were moved to Buffalo during COVID.
It was great.
And we kind of adopted them, so I hope to see them go far because if I had to pick a second favorite, it's got to be the Blue Jays now. Kind of wish they would have stayed in Buffalo. Been a little bit more exciting than just having the Bisons, but I'm excited to see how their season goes.
I'm excited for them too. I mean, they felt like, it was kind of weird living in like just outside of Buffalo and having a team like felt like right in your backyard for a couple months. But I liked some of the Blue Jays, players. I grew up, going to Bison's games. I watched Bo Bichette play. Being an Astros fan, George Springer was one of my all-time favorite players. And obviously Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I mean, the dude's a freak. Like, all he does is stand up there and hits home runs. He either hits home runs or he hits the back wall and scores a double. But I love the Blue Jays right now. They actually fell 2 positions. They were in 2nd, but then the Giants and Mets kind of just booted them out because the Blue Jays had a tough time over the Easter, weekend beating teams like the Oakland A's. But they're still really good. They're on pace to win 97 games this year, which is really good for them. So I think they won about 81 last year, so that's a huge improvement. The White Sox in 5th, I think that's a little high, if I'm being completely honest.
I completely agree with that.
They're always sort of like the middle of the pack. Ever since like 2020, they've been making the playoffs, but they really can't get past the first round. And their bats are so inconsistent. Even this year, I still think they're just a little far up. They did drop a spot. They were in 4th before, but I think they're right around the 10, 11, 12 range.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, there are just so many, in my opinion, better teams below them, and I just feel like it's not they're not very deserving of 5th. I mean, we'll see how it goes. Maybe the rest of the season they'll prove themselves a little bit better, but in my mind, they're just a pretty average team. I mean, they're not the worst, but they're not the best, so 5th is just a little bit too high, in my opinion.
And everybody's got to keep in mind that we're only like 10 days into the season, 10 games into the season, so anything could change. Number 6 is the most hated, Meowston Castros right here. I think the only reason why they're in 6th, I think this is a good, a good spot for them because their offense went completely MIA against Seattle. I don't know what happened that series, but they lost 11-1, then they won 4-0, then they lost 7-2. Like inconsistent batting, but Justin Verlander, despite coming off of Tommy John surgery, 38 years old, he still has it.
8
on Saturday,
innings.
8 shutout innings, and then
almost a perfect game.
I mean, fantastic, right?
Yep.
Almost a complete game shutout, and I think he's the number 1 ace in the rotation right now. And then, despite having guys like Lance McCullers Jr. out with injury, and now Altuve's out with a hamstring injury, they need the bats to come in full effect, and guys like Jeremy Pena and Alex Bregman are doing just that. So I like the Astros at 6. Number 7, I think the Cardinals are a little bit, snubbed here. Maybe flip the White Sox and the Cardinals around because...
I mean, they have a young manager, so this is pretty exciting to see. I mean, it's, I think, the youngest in MLB history. Yep. So, I mean, to see them being up so high, I mean, good for him. I mean, he must be super happy that he's getting up there, being so young. I mean, he has a lot to prove, so...
And bringing back Albert Pujols only does, does you great things. He's like, 45 years old, and he can still hit the bat like he's 25?
Yeah.
So,
Just goes to show that age really doesn't mean anything in this sport.
Especially, since they got rid of since they have the universal DH now in both leagues, he can probably play until he's 55. I mean, let's just be honest. The World Series champs, their current reigning champs right now, the Atlanta Braves, are in 8th. Despite losing Freddie Freeman and despite losing Jorge Soler, you have guys like Ronald Acuna Jr. that are stepping it up and making the Braves look competitive. They did lose big last night to the Dodgers. I think they were down 6-1 at one point, but they're still the reigning champs. They have to be at least in the top 10 by default.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I mean, they're doing a good job so far, and hope they can keep going, keep getting some wins.
And then rounding out the top 10, these two teams who, maybe the Mariners can be in the top 10 for now, but the Angels in 9th, I don't understand that at all. They went 5-1, and most of their losses came against the Astros, but they don't really have a great run differential. They give up a lot of runs. Their pitching is extremely inconsistent. And they're in 3rd in the division right now. I don't know how the Angels are in the top 10, and teams like the Padres and the Rays aren't even in the top 10. Yeah. But the Mariners in 10th, being an Astros fan, it's kind of weird saying this, but they should be higher. Because I honestly think they do have, great pitching and guys like Robbie Ray. They brought in a lot of great players. But, the Angels in 9th just, baffles me.
And with this terrible weather, I mean, everyone's kind of had a tough start to the season. They've been having to play through all different kinds of weather. It's been cold, so I think that this is a great start to a great season.
I think so too. I think we're going to see a great playoff down the road, a great summer filled with baseball. And Sydney, thanks for coming on. Your first time coming on.
Yes,
hope it was a good time for you. And we're going to have Topher on to talk some NBA playoffs when we return, so don't go away.
We're ready for you.
Pneumococcal. If you're 65 or older, like me, you're at greater risk for pneumococcal pneumonia, even if you're healthy. People 65 plus are over 10 times more likely to land in the hospital for pneumococcal pneumonia than those 18 to 49. And it's important we all do what we can to stay healthy. So, talk to your doctor or pharmacist about vaccination.
Hope, where are you hiding? I search for you in the seconds, the minutes of each and every day. Hear me as I call out to you. Take my hand. Lift me up as I lift up others. Welcome me home, Father, Mother, Sister, brother, son, daughter. Hear us now. Alone we stood, divided we fell. No longer. Now we choose to make the connection. Our new mission lies within. Visit maketheconnection.net to learn more.
16 is such a significant age. I promise to help protect my eldest daughter during this exciting time in her life. Teens are at an increased risk for meningococcal disease, a rare, potentially deadly bacterial infection. But half haven't received the CDC recommended second dose of the MenACWY vaccine at 16. I want to help change that. Take your shot against meningitis. Talk to your teen's doctor about the MenACWY vaccine and ask about MenB. Visit the16vaccine.org.
Well, welcome back to Sports Hour. We're not talking college basketball, which feels like
sad. It's a little
It's very sad. It's a little somber. But we're here to talk some NBA playoffs. Not as good as March Madness. That's a very subjective thing to say. But, you know, it's still good.
Look, it's good because there's no Lakers and there's no Clippers, and the Heat are doing well.
I agree.
That's the only reason I'm okay with it.
Wait, so you're telling me that Westbrook and LeBron and Anthony Davis are not in the playoffs?
See, I like Anthony Davis, though. Like, I'm okay with Anthony Davis. But, like, yeah, the fact that team's not in the playoffs is actually hilarious. It's so funny. It's great.
I do think the games started on Saturday. Yep. You know, the playoffs started Saturday, the quarterfinals, round one. We're going to go through a quick recap of those, get you some live scores, and go in depth on some of these other games. But the Jazz on the road defeating the Mavericks 99-93. Then the T-Wolves, who really just stormed the scene this year, came out of nowhere in a very high-scoring game against the Grizzlies. They won 130-117. The 76ers beating the Raptors 131-111. I don't know why these scores are so inflated, but it's insane. The Warriors beating the Denver Nuggets 123-107. The Heat over the Hawks 115-91. Celtics over the Nets 115-114, just a 1-point victory there. And then you have the Bucks and the Bulls, where the Bucks won 93-86, very low scoring compared to these other games. The Suns over the Pelicans on their revenge tour this year, they won 110-99. The 76ers over the Raptors, 112-97. Mavericks over the Jazz, 110-104. And then in Game 2 of the Warriors and Nuggets, 126-106 in favor of the Warriors. And then some live scores right now. You have the Heat currently beating the Atlanta Hawks, 87-76 at the end of the third. We got one more quarter to go. And the Grizzlies are just beating the Minnesota Timberwolves at the end of one, 33-32. Any of those games that really stuck out to you other than the massive scores?
The craziest game was 100% the Celtics-Nets one. That final shot was insane.
It was great.
I don't like either of these teams, to be fair, because I kind of like, as much as they suck, I like the Knicks. Like, so I kind of hate both of these teams, and I hate super teams, but I like Kyrie. So it's like, it's weird. I loved Kyrie on the Cavs.
Yep.
I hated him on the, I liked him only on the Celtics, and now he's on the Nets. So it's like, I like Kyrie, though, so I will root for the Nets just because I like Kyrie more than I like anyone on the Celtics, and I just really hate the Celtics growing up. So that game was crazy. Also, Kyrie is just so good at basketball.
He's great. He's so clutch.
So good. How is he not in the top 75 players? I don't know. But yes, Jason Tatum hit one of the craziest shots I've ever seen, and it was a great game to watch, to be fair. That was the game that really stood out to me. And then the other one, of course, my favorite player, Chris Paul, dropping 30 on the who was it against? It was against the Pelicans.
Yep, the Suns and the Pelicans.
Yeah, that game was. Chris Paul just carried that team back into it. Like that game was probably closer than it seems by box score standings.
And Chris Paul still has something to play for. He's still ring chasing. Does not have a ring just yet. I think his best chance was with Houston, and then he got the leg injury, missed the playoffs, and the Rockets lost. And you know the whole story.
Year, obviously, too.
Yep, obviously last year. But I mean, that was just Milwaukee domination, though. But that year with Chris Paul and the Rockets, it was just the story of James Harden not being able to play defense, being super lazy, and then the best player on the team injuring himself. But as of right now, Phoenix is looking good. They won by 11 against the Pelicans, who really I think the Suns should have beaten handily. But this is the playoffs, so anything could happen. But when you mention a guy like CP3 and Chris Paul, I mean, going into this one, at his age, too, scoring 30 points in game 1.
Yeah,
that just sounds like Chris Paul to me.
I'm going to get wrong, but I want to say he's like, what is he, 32? I'm not positive. That's just my guess.
36, actually.
Is he? Oh, my
36,
God. Oh, my God. Okay, I undershot that so much. No, there was a reason he's my favorite player in the NBA. He will always be my favorite player in the NBA, and he's just and he's still just so good. Like, I think he just goes so underrated. And I think like when people watch him play, they're like, yeah, I want him to get a ring. Like, I don't think there's anyone that hates Chris Paul. Like, it's just,
you have to be like a Lakers fan.
You have to be a Lakers fan to hate
Chris Paul. Even like dislike him.
Yeah.
At like strongest as you go with is dislike.
That's only because he beats you guys like on a consistent basis. Because he was great on the Clippers. He was good on the Clippers. Chris Paul.
He had that one great year on the Rockets.
Oh yeah, he was great on the Rockets. But like Clippers, Chris Paul will always be like my growing up Chris Paul, because like I wasn't really into NBA when he was like on the Hornets.
I'm about to say, like, what about like New Orleans Chris Paul?
I didn't watch that was like point guard Chris Paul, but like I grew up watching like Lob City Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan. Like that was the Chris Paul I grew up watching, and I kind of fell off when he went to the Rockets. I was like, like kind of super teamy, didn't like it.
But now that he came back to this smaller market team like Phoenix,
with Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton involved, and like Mikal Bridges, like he's taking young dudes and just he made them a super team, but like without like the star power. Like Devin Booker's a star,
without the big names,
like without making like huge transactions, which like annoyed me. No, this is just insane.
I mean, Booker with 25, Paul with 30, Johnson with 13, Bridges with 11, Ayton with 21. I mean, there's your like core 5 right there in this game. And it is crazy. But the Pelicans, for the most part, were staying in that game. I mean, Brandon Ingram, 18 points. You had McCollum getting 25 points.
It helps when Jonas Valanciunas is getting 25 rebounds on his own. I don't, like, that's just ridiculous. Like, to be fair, like, that just says something about DeAndre Ayton kind of being like, no, I love DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton kind of sometimes likes to just not show up in basketball games.
Yeah.
And Jonas Valanciunas getting 25 rebounds kind of shows that. I don't care how many points DeAndre Ayton had. He obviously did not do enough defensively to get enough rebounds. Because, like, I bet you 10 of those were probably offensive, which is just gross.
I mean, still, in general, I mean, getting all those rebounds, using your height to your advantage, that's stuff that you love to see, especially in the playoffs. I want to move on to a series, the Golden State Warriors and the Denver Nuggets. And the Nuggets, just like the Suns, are a team that I really want to win their first championship. I want to see the Nuggets go all out, but it seems like every year they're facing against the Warriors, whether that's the first round or the second round. And it's just a hump that they just cannot get over.
Is it wrong that like I kind of don't hate this Golden State team?
Yeah, like I feel the same way.
They have Curry coming off the bench. Curry's the best sixth man in the NBA right now.
Oh, of course.
He's the best sixth man in the playoffs. Jordan Poole's averaging 29.5 points. He dropped 30 in game 1. He dropped 29 in game 2. Like, what is going on? Like
Klay Thompson, who we felt like we haven't seen in forever, is dropping 21 points.
Yeah, like he's doing good. Like, it's not Klay that's going to go out and drop 40 any given night back.
Right.
It was like they won their first chip. But, like, it's like this is a fun Golden State team to watch because they are slightly younger.
And there's no Kevin Durant.
There's no Kevin Durant, so it instantly makes it better. And, like, to be fair, I have a love-hate relationship with Draymond Green because, like, in Michigan State, he was great in Michigan State.
Of course.
And, like, I got to the NBA, I treat Draymond Green the same way I treat, like, Patrick Beverley. Mm-hmm. He's cool if he's on my team.
But you hate his guts.
I hate him if he's on any other team.
He's on the other side, yeah.
I feel like everyone feels the same way about those two players.
Yeah, and, you know, the stuff that happened in 2016 with Green taking low shots at other players, like, that was what really rubbed people the wrong way.
Not a good look. And, like, hey, we don't claim that Draymond. We claim the Draymond that got triple-doubles in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
So there's a border there.
But then on the other side, you look at a team like Denver, and DeMarcus Cousins is still in the league, which is still good to see. I mean, he got almost 10 points at his age, and you can tell that he wants to win again. But
yeah, but like I don't think the Nuggets beat, like, even if they somehow come back from a 2-0. They're not beating a lot of these other teams. Like, I would pick a few other teams over the Nuggets, which is, like, crazy because, like, Nikola Jokic is having another MVP season.
He's great.
Like, he's great. I don't think he's well.
Aaron Gordon's pretty good.
Aaron Gordon's he's fallen off a little bit, but he's still good enough.
Yeah,
like,
Will Barton's always a name that kind of comes up.
Yeah, like, Will Barton's great.
But other than that, I mean, you really don't have guys that can. You don't have guys that can consistently hit 25 points.
Yeah, like they need Jamal Murray to be like, and they just don't have him right now. So it's like Nikola Jokic is great. He's insane. He can carry a team. They need Jamal Murray to be like, yeah, NBA contender. Like he just makes that team so much better because he spreads the floor without the focus being on Jokic.
And then when you look at a team like, sticking in the West, when you look at a team like the Mavericks, I feel like they're in the same boat. Like,
bro, what is Jalen Brunson right now? What is that man doing? 4th year, and now's the year he decides to come out of nowhere.
Hey, he was taking his time, finally found his groove, and it only took year 4.
Yeah, only took year 4, dude.
But that's okay. I mean, they're right now in a series, Dallas is right now in a series tied with Utah. And
that's a good series.
It's a really good series, very underrated. But I look at Dallas similar to how we would, look at Denver right now.
I mean, yeah,
they could get out of the first round, but what happens after the fact?
It just depends on what Luka comes back to, because it's 2 games in a row. They haven't played with Luka.
Right.
What does he do when he comes back? So obviously, if Jalen Brunson keeps playing with this, when Luka's on the floor, then it's a good team.
Another spark.
Yeah, then it's interesting, and they can kind of shoot with a lot of the best teams and score with a decent amount of teams. But if Luka comes back and he's a little slow, he's kind of a little hobbled,
he might not be 100%.
If he has to play Curry minutes right now, which is 20, I don't think Dallas can do that. When realistically, Utah has Donovan Mitchell, who's played really well in the playoffs before. They have Bojan Bogdanovic, who just shoots the lights out.
Jordan Clarkson.
Jordan Clarkson's he's a great reserve player who's been in the NBA a while, knows what to do in the playoffs. The West is interesting, and I think realistically, I think the East is a wash. I think it's gonna be 76ers win. I think the Heat win. So it's that Celtics Nets one that can go either way. That's the one.
I still think the Celtics would have an edge over that one but I'm terrible at predicting these things. But as of right now, I think
I'm better at predicting NBA than I am with college. I definitely think
it's definitely more up in the air.
I think
college.
It's 100% up. I think I would definitely if I had to pick it right now, I'm picking Miami 100%.
Yeah.
If we're going to East games, I'm picking the
Celtics.
I'm picking I don't know. That's the one I won't touch. If I was betting on them. I'm picking 76ers.
Would you go with the Chicago Bulls?
No. Bucks are winning that series.
Bucks.
Bulls do not have the star power to beat Giannis. They just can't contain Giannis, even if he's not playing at his best.
Yeah.
That game was low scoring. I'm picking a low scoring game.
I still take Minnesota because I love the underdog story coming back.
I love Ja Morant, so I got to go Grizzlies.
Yeah.
I love Ja Morant.
That's fair enough, though.
Yeah.
But, there are some series that are great, some of them that are so hard to even decide. But it's only going to get better when we come on next week.
We have a better, idea.
Yeah,
sure.
We're going to get closer to the semis. If not, maybe a sweep could already happen. Maybe a 5-game series could already happen. But,
True.
Topher, thanks for coming on. And we're going to have Brent on to talk some NHL hockey, so stay tuned.
This one's for the real ballers and shot callers. The Sisterhood of Women in Tech. They're discovering cures, building apps, and programming the blockchain. They're CEOs, worldwide hustlers who can make it rain. They're tearing down the old boys club and seeing big gains. Because when women in tech come together, they make that change.
Every day,
millions of people are connecting.
And even though we're overcoming obstacles, watching each other's backs,
and banding together,
we should still make an effort.
To
get to know each other.
On a deeper level.
Father.
Cosplayer.
Mentor.
Actor.
It's time we take a step forward.
Come together.
And discover
how accepting our differences
can make us stronger.
How prepared is your family if a hurricane shows up at your doorstep, or a flood, or a blizzard? You can't just turn away a natural disaster. That's why it's important to go to ready.gov/plan now. It has the tools and tips you need to make an emergency plan with your family. So if disaster comes knocking,
let's go.
You'll be ready to help keep your family safe.
It's just a pizza.
Yes. Make a plan today.
Happy to have Brent join me for hockey. Just coming off of the a tough beer league loss in overtime.
Beer league, tough.
Oh, you hate
down
to see
4-1, make the comeback to send it to overtime, and then you lose. It's a tough scene, but we're here to talk some NHL, not some old league hockey. But
you know what he did? Despite losing the game, he still came to Hendricks Hall and still put in the dedication to come here to talk some hockey on Sports Hour. So
well, I got to come for the best show in WNYF. So
of course.
After that, kind of tough loss we took the other day, we got to make up for it now. So.
Yep, and what better way to, get on the right track than to talk about good things in the Sabres organization. Let's just start off, with their overall record, 5-5-0, right at 500, even.
Not bad.
But there's some great things this month. Mathematically, we were out in March, so we're taking, April with grain of salt, saying just do whatever you want to do in April, basically. Mm-hmm. As long as Owen Powers, looks good, and he has been looking good.
Oh, yeah. I went to the game Saturday. And, it was a little bit tough at first. We were a little slow to start, but then, all of a sudden the Sabres throw on Josh Allen on the Jumbotron, and it just turned right around. I guess that was the only spark we needed. But, Owen Power for his first week as a Sabre looking great. He only put up 1 point, but, to be in your NHL week debut, I'm going to say, the way he's been looking, because I've been watching, most of their games, He's going to fit in. He's going to fit in perfect, in my opinion. He's that offensive defenseman type player. He's just like Dahlin. He loves rushing it. Sometimes if I'm, checking my phone for a different score, I look up Owen Power standing by the net. I'm like, is he playing winger all of a sudden? But, he has that endurance, and he can do that because he gets right back on defense, and, it's super exciting to see him play. And I think next season, when all these guys start getting a little bit more chemistry and it's a full season under Tuck's belt, under OP's belt,
yep.
I think next year we may be in the search for a little wild card spot.
Man, that would be great. And I think with the East, though, you're kind of looking at some teams on rise that are not just named the Sabres. Not a lot of teams falling, unlike the West, where Vancouver could be rising, other teams are falling. But with the Sabres, I feel like they need to have a 12-point or 14, 15-point increase next year, which may be a lot, 6 extra wins from this year, or at least, a few more playoff or, overtime losses to, stack those points up. But you would think the target, to get into a second wild card spot would be 89, 90, 91 points. Yep. The Sabres need to pretty much climb to get there. And if they don't get there next year and they're getting 85 points, it's still good, but it would kind of hurt to see them get that close. But I have full faith next year that they can do something. It's just you need to have these guys gel together. And anyone who's in Rochester that's not even remotely ready to go yet, keep them in Rochester. We can't afford another Mikhail Grigorenko, Alex Nylander, Marcus Foligno. I can go on all freaking day with this.
We can rattle off a whole list of players.
Players who were rushed in the organization that had so much potential.
And then just right down.
Yep.
So, you're right. We can't do that. But, Devin Levi, like we were talking about, he's going back, playing another year. Portillo's going to play another year. So, that's going to be their last year that we're going to own their rights. So, it will be interesting to see if they end up signing with us. If they don't, it's not the greatest look on them. So, hopefully they just do. But, seeing them play another year, that's going to be good for them too, to just, try and get that. That would be that's going to be a battle next year between those two goalies for the national championship. So that's going to be exciting to see. But, all these players that we're getting, and the ones on Rochester, Quinn.
Jack Quinn, yep.
Perfect example.
He got a little bit of reps this year, got injured, but for those reps that he was in, he looked great. I saw him score his first NHL goal, an absolute snipe against the Dallas Stars. Great goal, great shot, great first NHL goal. He's going to do more of that once you give him more reps, rehab in Rochester a little bit. Everyone's saying that he's soft after one injury. I'm like, the dude only played 6 games in the National Hockey League, so settle down. But I was a big fan in that draft of Cole Perfetti and who was the other guy? Marco Rossi. Yep. But obviously the stuff going on, the unfortunate stuff with Marco Rossi and COVID, that's obviously looking like a safe pick by the Sabres going with Jack Quinn. But Cole Perfetti, it's pretty much the same thing. Jack Quinn has a lot of potential, and I'm really looking forward to seeing him.
So much potential. And then when he does end up coming to the Sabres, getting coached by Garotto, seeing the trust he has in these guys, and Quinn also being a young player, I know for 100% a fact that he's going to let Quinn, if, like we said, how some of the players went up to Grotto before a game, like, hey, put me with these guys, let's see what can happen.
And he's like, sure.
Yeah, exactly. Quinn's going to probably do the same exact thing once he starts playing with different players and figures out what guys really gel perfect with him. And Grotto's going to be like, yeah, absolutely. And then if it starts working and things start clicking, fans are going to be roaring in that stadium. And even though we won't have RJ, which is sad.
Yeah.
But just to get that atmosphere back in Buffalo, especially for the Sabres, that'll be something great to see for the whole city. And talking about the team a little bit, Dahlin hitting 50 points as a defenseman.
I mean, this is like 1980s Phil Housley numbers right
Yeah,
here. This is like Nicholas Lidstrom with the Red Wings. This is like Ray Bourque with the Bruins. He's like, and he's not even like those players. He's not even like a Ray Bourque. Ray Bourque was just a big defenseman that would lay people out and get assists. Dahlin can score. He has filthy moves. He can tuck it between the legs, hit him with the toe drag. We call that the toe drag swag, according to John Buccigross, great commentator, by the way. But he can do it all. He's great offensively. He's great defensively. He can lay someone out when he has to.
Yep.
And the 50 points is well earned.
Yeah, 100%. Especially against at that Flyers game I was at, him and Konechny were going at it like the whole time.
Yeah, Konechny punched him in the face.
Punched him right in the face, yeah. And he just comes out there. He's like, all right, I'll take it, go on a power play and get a little assist. And then later on, snipe an absolute missile from a pass from Tage Thompson, which was beautiful. But yeah, Dahlin, I'm sorry for roasting you earlier this year. Apparently, you just said, screw it, I'm gonna start showing people what I really have and start using my talent, showcasing what I got, and he has. So, congrats to him. First Buffalo Sabre defenseman to hit 50 points since like 98 or something?
98, and you're probably looking at a guy like Rhett Warren, or I'm trying to think of a defenseman from back then.
I saw the stat the other day. I forgot who the name was, but yeah, it was something in like 97
Warner
or
or Zhitnik maybe?
Oh, yeah.
Was it
Alexi
Zhitnik?
Yeah. So one of those guys, regardless, 50 points.
And also, Brian Campbell couldn't do it. A great defenseman, he couldn't do that. I mean, Henrik Tallinder, a very, very stable defenseman on the team, couldn't do that. So it's great to see, somebody finally break that stat that I wasn't even alive for seeing in 1998. So it's pretty cool to see that. And also to see, back-to-back 30 goal scorers. Jeff Skinner's 29-30 right now? Did he hit 30 yet?
No, I think he hit 30.
He's at 30, and Tage Thompson's at 36.
Tying Eichel's
high. The first time two Sabres have scored 30 goals since 2010, 2011 with Thomas Vanek and Jason Pominville.
I was just about to say Vanek and Pominville, yep. And that's just, dude, we're talking about all these numbers and, these players that we're getting and, what the Sabres are doing. If Buffalo's not excited for what's to come from the Sabres, I don't know what.
Get excited. Get excited.
I don't know what you're thinking. You should be getting excited because this team is definitely going to be fun to watch come next year and then come the years after that because you know how everyone always says the rebuild, whatever. You know what?
The never-ending rebuild.
The never-ending rebuild. Yeah, sure. We started that with Eichel. Clearly, look at what happened.
Yeah, you guys were excited for Eichel. The season tickets were going through the roof when Eichel got drafted because you had guys like Reinhart and Kane and O'Reilly with them. You were excited then. Look at what the Sabres are creating right now in their farm system. And just their current guys that were recently called up, look what they're doing now. Mm-hmm. If this is an excuse to buy season tickets for next year or just to go to more games than you have been over the past 10 years or so, what else are you looking for?
Exactly. Especially for Owen Power's first real whole rookie season with us, that alone is going to be exciting to see. And then to see who, I don't know who his partner is going to be. I've had some guesses, some assumptions, but, that's also going to be, exciting to see. Everything that's going to be coming. And talking about Vegas a little bit, I saw a stat today that said something like, ever since Eichel had his debut, February 16th, the record for Vegas is 13-14-3, and the record for Sabres is 13-14-2. Sabres fans. You can give me all the hate you want about me bashing Eichel, but he was supposed to make this team unbelievable. And yeah, despite the injuries they've had, I know they had some big guys out: Pacioretty, Stone, Leonard.
Goaltending's been very inconsistent.
Been rough. Yep. But even Eichel himself, he hasn't been putting up the greatest amount of points for them. And
no, he hasn't.
dude, honestly, I don't know if it was that Sabres game or not, but like
Sabres game put him in a little downward trend, I think, with Eichel. But I don't know if you also saw this other stat. The Vegas Golden Knights, as of right now, this moment, have a 20% chance of making the playoffs.
I didn't see that, but I was going to say Vancouver. I was looking at it today. Vancouver, what are they? A point behind them?
Yep.
Yeah, they're a point behind them, and they're playing the Senators tonight. I think right now, actually.
Very winnable game.
Very winnable game, and Vegas' next game is against the Caps tomorrow, and Caps just beat the Avs yesterday, 3-2. So like
they're on a streak right now.
They're feeling it for playoffs because you know why? Last week I said. Last week I said, Caps, if the playoffs were to start right now, Caps are playing Florida. I know for a fact, Ovi, Backstrom, Oshie, all those guys, they don't want to play against Florida first round. That's one of the top teams in the league.
Yeah, you're risking a first round exit right there.
Yeah, and like me, being a Caps fan, when I saw that, I was like, maybe we'll pull it out. We'll stretch it to like 6, see what happens maybe. Yep. But then, I checked it today and I'm like, nope, that ain't happening. It might end up being the Penguins, hopefully. But, like, even if it does end up being the Capitals, I got trust in them. It'll be a really tough series. But, I mean, I hope it's not. And I hope it's the Penguins because I would love to see Crosby go out first round.
Yep. And I also kind of hope that maybe something could happen where Washington can face against Toronto to keep Toronto's streak of not being able to get past the first round, to extend that for another year. That would be pretty cool to see. But, I mean, Toronto's at what? 106 points. The Bruins are at 97. They're in 4th. The Sabres are in 5th.
Sabres are in 5th.
They're in 5th. So, what do you... I mean, what's everyone truly complaining about?
That's
the fact we're not going to the playoffs. Nobody had the Sabres going to the playoffs to begin with.
Did anyone have the Sabres finishing top 5 in our conference division? No, definitely not. Definitely not.
And then when you go to the West, I mean, you can make the argument that the Pacific Division, that entire division, is in a worse state than the Sabres are right now.
Dude, the West is... I don't even know what's going on with the West at this point.
I mean, first of all, what are the Seattle Kraken? They don't have any
They're a bunch of ettas.
They're a bunch of 2 minutes. They don't have any firepower. They don't establish anything. The Sharks, same thing. Who was the face of their franchise? The Seattle traded away their face of their franchise with Giordano, right?
Yep.
And they don't have anybody. The Ducks, they have Zegras. I mean, Getzlaf retired, they have Zegras, that's about it. The Canucks are probably that team that's, super close. Vegas is falling apart for all I know. And the only team that has clinched so far in that division is Calgary with 103.
Yep.
103 points.
And you look behind them, it's the Oilers at 94, almost 10 points behind them. So, that's a lock for Calgary. And then you look at the Central Division, and, 116 points for Colorado, and Blues right behind them at 102, so obviously...
And then Minnesota, 103.
103, and then...
Nashville just on the outside, 91. Mm-hmm. Dallas and Nashville are tied at 91 points apiece.
Yeah.
This is going to be a nice run down the road.
There's been a lot of talks about Dallas recently. Nobody knows if they're going to pull it out or not to get that spot. But, dude, this whole battle right now for the West is insane.
Yeah.
It's kind of not up for grabs, but it's up for grabs for the bottom couple teams for sure.
Right. You look at Arizona. A minus 106 goal differential is almost unheard of. I mean, playing like absolute toy bots out there.
God,
looking like complete Arizona robo boogies out there, if I'm being completely honest.
They're literally just still playing in abandoned factories too. It doesn't even make sense anymore with this team. They're relocating. They're relocating. I'm sorry. Next season they're going to Houston, right? Was it Houston?
San Antonio? Where are they going? Houston?
I think it was Houston. Kansas City maybe?
They're going one of those.
Somewhere. Just
hopefully
get
they go one of those
factory,
places.
Please.
Seriously,
it's about time.
You can't even get the guys in the striped shirts who make 15 minutes, calls too late to help you out. So, you have these guys in the striped shirts, you have the robo boogies, and you have the toy bots. That's about it.
That's about it.
And
that right there, Arizona Coyotes.
That's Arizona, and also the Chicago Blackhawks. But at least they actually came off of a dynasty. Arizona hasn't done anything in the past 10 years. Chicago, they were a dynasty from 2010 to 2018. Let's just be completely honest.
And then they ran into all that. well, we won't get into that, but
yeah,
they ran into some
touchy
trouble.
subject. But yeah, that. But you also have the Winnipeg Jets, who were looking great like 2 years ago, and then they just, I don't know what happened. They kind of just fell off the face of the planet.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to the Jets, dude. They were literally they made playoffs for 3-4 years in a row.
And their fans would always do the whiteout thing.
Whiteout with the towels.
It was like 20,000
electric.
screaming fans.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when they went to the playoffs against Vegas. Remember how loud that Winnipeg arena was?
Oh my God, that was dude. All of Vegas that year were insane. But yeah, especially in Winnipeg with that whiteout, forget about it. Those games were crazy, and I honestly like watching Winnipeg playoff games just for that.
Yeah.
Because like seeing those fans, I mean, dude, imagine a Buffalo Sabres playoff game.
Yeah. I mean, I think the last game I went to, it was like blue and gold pom-poms, and they wore like the old Slug jerseys, like the Buffa Slug, the banana slug on their jersey. Mm-hmm. That was the last time I went to a Sabres playoff game. Like, this is a complete joke. That's why we want to see them go back, because we know that the fans are gonna have the party in the plaza. They're gonna do everything. They're gonna do the whole deal. And then you see teams like Carolina, who are in first place in the Metropolitan Division, that can't sell 12,000 tickets. Yeah. Like, how does that make sense? You have Florida in first place, that's starting to get up there, but they really can't sell out 12,000 tickets. If the Sabres were like fourth in the division, they'd be selling out every single night.
Yeah, exactly. And like, even if you think of our hot streak that we had a little bit a few years ago, like. Yeah,
you mean the 10-game streak?
Yeah, the 10-game streak. I mean, sure, yeah. After that was like, obviously those games were packed because we were on the streak. But like, as soon as that streak ended, fans were still going to the game for a good amount of time, actually. Yep. Just up until we went.
They really fell out of contention. Yeah.
Yeah, that was just kind of embarrassing. But I mean, yeah, I saw this tweet the other day actually that said. Imagine a Sabres home playoff game and them just showing the whole Buffalo Bills team, and everyone's just slamming beers and just going crazy. Jumping through tables, and I'm not actually at the KeyBank. That would be
Sabretooth hitting the drum.
Oh, dude, Sabretooth hitting launching out the T-shirts. Like, dude, that electric. We need a Sabres playoff game right now. Not actually, but next year, maybe.
I'd love one right now, but...
I mean, yeah.
Who knows what would happen in that first round, but,
Yeah, actually. But I do want to say, though, I don't know if you saw this, Ovi won Kenobi.
The grade 8?
The grade 8. I think it was, what was the stat? Something he, out of the 37-year-olds that have played in the NHL, he has the most goals. I think it was something like that. And
passes Gretzky, passes Gordie Howe, passes Jaromir Jagr, all these players, yep.
He will eventually, 100%. He's at, third right now?
Third. I was talking like goals as a 37-year-old.
Oh.
I think he breaks all those records right there. And I don't even think it's even close.
Yeah, honestly,
like, Jagr is very close, because I think at 37, he was probably with the Flyers. And he was great that year with Giroux and Briere. He was really good. But, I mean... This is Alex Ovechkin we're talking about here. He's one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest in like the modern day of hockey.
100%. And I grew up watching him. He's been my favorite player since I was a little kid, and just seeing where he is now and seeing what he's doing, I love it. Couldn't ask for more from him. And when it gets into playoffs, we know how he is on the bench. We know how he is with that whole squad, that captain position. He's like you said before. Big cheerleader for the team.
Yeah.
And he has to be that way, being a captain, but that alone just motivates every single guy on the team to just go 1,000%, and that's exactly why that year they won the playoffs, they were just going off.
Yeah, and he never, like, after all those years of losing to Pittsburgh in the playoffs, he never, like, demanded a trade like a Kevin Durant did. He always stayed loyal to toward the Washington Capitals. And then when he finally won, it was this giant weight lifted off his shoulders, and he partied like an animal afterwards, bringing that trophy everywhere he went. I mean, he went to Nationals games with it. He took pictures in a hotel bed with it. Like, that's just Alex Ovechkin being Alex Ovechkin.
That's my 37-year-old. I always say it's my 41-year-old goalie. That's my 37-year-old captain.
And Owen Power
on a different team.
That's my 22-year-old defenseman, or 21? 20? 20-year-old defenseman.
He's my age, and he's in the NHL. Like, Come on, dude.
He went to the Frozen Four.
Frozen Four, that's tough. I don't really want to get into that topic.
Yeah,
but
well, I'm just gonna say like he's accomplished more in his life than I've done like in my life.
whole life.
Not even close. Or like he's done more in the past 2 years than I've done in my entire life. Let's just say that. But,
actually.
Wow, lots of great stuff from the NHL. Brent, thanks for coming on.
Of course.
And everybody out there, we'll see you same time, same place next week, right here at Hendricks Hall for Sports Hour. We'll see you on the next one.